Everybody say it mean.
Who's that out there living the dream? Let's blow in the bean. Who's that still smoking all that green? Let's blow in the bean. Come on, y'all, let me hear you scream. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Let's blow in the bean. Go.
Let's blow in the bean. Welcome back. We know we definitely haven't been with you guys, but guess what? Life gets in the way. We've been making a lot of big deals, a lot of handshakings, a lot of baby kissing, and all that good stuff. So we're definitely out there.
Speak for yourself.
Well, we're trying to get our
I ain't
name
kissing
out
no
there.
baby.
I'll shake a baby and kiss a hand. I'll do what I need to do in order to get out there. But either way, we weren't able to get to you guys to give you a breakdown of last weekend. It was an incredible night on Fox. It was on main Fox. That was one of the best fight nights of the year. I feel like that card was amazing. There was a lot of finishes. There was mega underdogs that came through. There was others that didn't. We definitely saw the change in some divisions for the better, and we're starting to see some really young prospects do really well. I went 9-4 out of the night, so the 3 that I got wrong were, I believe, Stevens, Clark, Sanchez versus Anthony Smith, which Anthony Smith was losing that fight until the third round TKO. Stevens, and there was a stupid one, Roy Nelson, and the last one I got wrong off the top of my head was... I picked against Aljamain Sterling. I had Moicano. But the one that came through that I feel like we didn't talk about a lot was Robert, or what do they call him? Bobby Knuckles?
Or Robert Whittaker.
Well, apparently what's been going on Twitter is that the fans, us, have nicknamed him Bobby Knuckles, but his nickname has actually been the Reaper ever since he was on the show. And he's actually come out and said he doesn't care for the name Bobby Knuckles and he doesn't want to go by that. But if the fans pick the name...
I've never even heard that before.
Bobby Knuckles?
Not one time.
Oh, look it up on Twitter. You'll see. I kept seeing people be like, I got Bobby all last week, and I kept being like,
well, Bobby's just a short for Robert.
Which
That's
makes
normal.
sense. Right.
I never heard Bobby Knuckles until right in the second.
Oh, no. Yeah, you'll definitely see that up. It's all over the Twitterverse. And I think he just had an interview stating, like, it's not my nickname, but people call me that. There's been a couple people, the Red King, he accepted it, but, I mean, the fans totally gave him that nickname as well. But the takedown defense was the main factor in that fight. It was unbelievable. We saw a chink in Jacare's armor, which I feel like was preset by Yoel Romero, which was don't go to the ground with him. Robert did really well and got back up immediately, and you're not going to get Robert Whittaker as an underdog in any other fights. He's been an underdog, I think, his last 5 out of 6 fights he's been the underdog. That's just not happening anymore with this type of a win.
I still think if they put him against Luke, if they put him against
Joel, those are top 5 guys.
Yeah, I think he's still, every fight he goes into from this point on, he's going to be the underdog until he gets...
5 out of 6 fights, he's been the underdog so far.
I think he's still going to be. And I had... Derek Brunson was the fight in Australia.
Yep.
I had Derek Brunson.
I had Brunson all day.
I wasn't a Whittaker fan at all during that fight, and I wasn't a Whittaker fan coming into this card. But when I stared at it, I have been a huge Jacare Souza fan forever. I thought the guy was unbeatable. Mm-hmm. But as I was staring at this and just thinking of the romantic way that I like to think of fights sometimes, I just feel like Whittaker is in his zone. I told you it right before the fight started.
Yeah, he looked
I think
great.
this guy has the potential to be maybe never McGregor big, but the UFC's next McGregor. And I think it because I think he looks good.
He has a country behind him.
Fighting style's exciting. He has a country behind him.
Mm-hmm.
He's good on the microphone.
Yep. Classy.
Yeah, so I just think Robert Whittaker is definitely one to watch.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about his future fights to come. And even going into this fight, I was not worried. The number one thing we always talk about Jacare, he's going to submit someone. He's going to submit him.
Uh-huh.
I was starting to look at the guys he submitted, got all trapped in the guys he submitted, wasn't really impressed by those guys at the time he submitted them. They weren't that impressive to me.
Which a lot of people had started to say that after the fact, but it is true. Like, if you do look back at his career, he was beating a lot of guys that were on the tail end of their
career, but I didn't know enough back then. So I just was like, wow, this guy's awesome. And now the more I know, I think Robert Whittaker, great takedown defense, but something that he showed that a guy of his age I've never seen in the ring show this. The amount of patience. He had Souza hurt
Yeah.
at least 3 main times, he could have
Yep.
jumped on him and really gotten himself into some
And I
harm's
think
way.
that that's where the real value, if you could say there is value in him, is that fight IQ that really showed off in this fight after the Derek Brunson, because Derek Brunson's my boy, and I definitely I was all in on Derek. Derek looked bad in that fight, but Robert also looked really good. And
the amount of
I
damage
took
Robert
hands.
stood,
and-
and it didn't knock him out. That's
Right.
what gave me confidence too. I knew the
Yep.
only way Souza's going to win this is submission.
Yep.
And you know, we've talked about it in the past. Whittaker has good takedown defense.
Exactly. If you can't
I
go to the
did
ground,
not
you
think he
can
was
submit
going to
someone.
have that amount of patience. It was amazing.
I thought it was going to be... I think I did pick it a TKO round 3, and it was a round 2 TKO, but I could have been decision and just been as happy.
I don't remember what I picked.
It was
I could have
unreal.
picked a decision.
But you
I
had
might have picked
Whittaker.
the finish.
You had
I had
Whittaker as
Whittaker.
well. Yeah.
And I never had Souza all week, which is mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
I
feel like I switched in the middle of the week. The person that I woke up and switched that paid off for me was Rose Namajunas. I had Michelle Waterson all week long, was just like, ooh, put her in a couple early parlays in the week. But the last day, Rose saved my life on parlays, so I made my cash back and all over. That was the one that really paid off for me.
I had Rose Namajunas on a few cards. I had Waterson on a few on my DraftKings. They were just too close in price. I was actually surprised at how close they were in price.
Yep.
I thought Waterson right at the end. I just didn't know what Rose we were going to get. And if that's the Rose we get from now on...
That's the biggest fault. But that's the only thing. Because if you think, like, we didn't break it down, but my thought process that entire time was, well, what do we know for sure? We know Waterson's has okay skills. We know Rose has amazing skills. It's whether her head's there or not. And I think that, we talked about it before a bit, that I thought initially her getting away from Pat Barry was like, she's done. Mentally, she's effed. But now what I'm kind of seeing is that she's actually trying to make herself mentally stronger. To be like, I don't need Pat in my
like,
corner.
why do I need an Achilles
Exactly.
heel? Why
That's
give
what I think
myself a
she's
weak
doing.
spot?
But if there's... Rose she's got a next title shot. I mean, who
I
else does she
never
fight?
wanted to see Rose against JJ. I did not think she was ready for that. I still
got JJ in that fight, but that's a
don't.
fun
I don't think
fight.
she's. I feel like JJ's fighting Andrade. I don't think that's a walkthrough. Well, this is what's going to happen. We're going to see a pounding put on JJ in the fir's 2 rounds that we've never seen, and then JJ's going to walk away with it because Andrade has no gas tank. That's just an early prediction.
I can see that.
The other fight that's going up is the Gadelia KK fight. I think that's going to be awesome. I don't think KK has the takedown defense that JJ had, and I actually think Gadelia can win that fight. She's just brutal.
Do you think it's 3 or 5? Because that's what plays for that fight for me the most.
This is actually the only division that they don't need an interim belt. It's an exciting division.
Yeah,
they don't need
I agree.
it. So I don't think it's probably going to be a 3-round is my guess.
So the 3-round favors
Gadelia all
Gadelia.
day.
If it favors Gadelia, the 5-round is a KK type of a fight.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just,
for sure.
I think Gadelia has... I like both those fighters so much. I am more interested to see Rose fight the winner of that fight before she goes in against JJ. I just think it builds. I think this JJ Rose fight, this is like the one for the... This could be the best 115 of all time. With the 2 biggest stars at 115, the only way it could be bigger would be if somehow PBZ got her shit together really quick and
She doesn't have
over.
enough time.
She doesn't have and just not the skill set. It's probably never going to be there in her life.
Yeah,
and it's
I
not
can
that
see
she's
that.
not,
Wants
good.
it. Yeah.
It's just that these 2 women are... If we get this PVZ or this Rose Namajunas, it is an interesting fight.
That could be fight of the year for sure.
But,
for sure.
I would love to just give her a second to breathe, let her go in again and snake someone. I think there's like Tisha Torres out there. They could give her a fight in between.
That already happened. That happened in the house, I believe, and maybe it didn't. But I feel like Tisha is a decision fighter, and she wins striking.
That one.
Yeah, I think it did.
I don't know.
But they're exhibitions. They're exhibitions. That's why they don't get put on their records. When they're in the house doing that, it's always kind of iffy. And I think she might have lost on the show to also Esparza before getting to the...
I don't remember Rose in the house at all.
Yeah, she was there. But she was so quiet. She was very...
As far as
she's quiet as it is.
When she was in.
Yeah, I think so.
But I don't remember Rose being in the house
Rose
at
was
all.
definitely there. What was the other thing? Other quick fight that I have to touch on because we haven't seen these type of points anywhere on DK, and this is where the evolution of the scoring and where, hey, if we see 2 strikers, you're going to see one guy get 100 points, but if you see 2 guys that are rolling and having the fight of the night, that was fight of the night, him versus Smolka, but Tim Elliott with a win got 175 points on DK. That's unreal.
It's
worth
unreal.
of points. Unreal. But it was a takedowns as well. Takedowns really stacked up for him. I was on Tim Elliott all week, even though I've been a big Smolka fan for a long time.
See,
and I've
I'm
actually
off
bet
Smolka
Smolka
so much
that
it doesn't really matter who he goes against at this point.
I think, though,
He
Smolka
looked better,
gets
though,
somebody
in this
else.
fight, but
he gets against somebody else and he wins those fights.
His battle
Is himself
no,
as well.
Every third, at least 2 out of 3 fights, every time he wrecks himself in weight cut.
He does have one of the harder weight cuts that I've seen.
It looks
in a long
awful.
time.
He's like one of those guys that walks out that you're like, this guy's on death's door.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
I agree.
every time. And I can tell it right on the scales. Ugh.
Yeah, I remember tweeting something
He
out like
actually
he needs
looks
to move
better
up.
on the scales right now, this week.
Really?
I thought... No, not good.
No, I was going to say.
This is why I don't like Smoke
He
at all.
folded over on himself and was like, come on, guys. And the commissioner was like,
It's
oh,
why
I'm
I don't
sorry.
like Smolka, but I just felt like
he moved up in weight, he'd be so much better.
It's so
I
think
would totally agree
the
with
juices
that.
can't be worth the squeeze for him.
Yeah.
And where is he gonna go? Is this his 3rd loss in a row?
So that's what I was going to say on this fight, is that I know that Smolka's on a 3-fight losing streak, but it's been to Moreno, who's going to be on this fight, who won the TV show. Or no, he lost the TV show barely. Who else? He also lost to Borg, which I think Borg is on that next level, about to go for the championship as well.
Man.
And then Tim Elliott just gave Demetrius Johnson his hardest fight, and DJ just fought, and guess what? Hayes didn't put up half the battle that Tim Elliott did. So he's essentially fought the top 5 guys. I think you give Smolka a top 10 guy, and he's proven in his Neil Series and all of his other fights that even if he hurts himself with a cut, he can go 3 rounds, because even though he was losing positions, he never stopped moving. He never stopped moving.
Smolka's
that
issue
fight.
is he dehydrates himself so much he becomes chinny. I don't think he's necessarily a chinny fighter.
No, yeah, I would
think
not.
it's the dehydration factor. So if he went up to the
135? Yep, 135.
Gosh. He would be dangerous at 135.
Yeah, I could
right
see
now,
that.
I think he's shaky at 125. Where I wouldn't. It would have to be.
It depends on his fight.
far-fetched.
You got to see his next fight to see what you're going to do.
Far-fetched for me to pick him. I don't even know who they'd put him against. They'd have to be someone that I'm like, oh, I don't know this guy. Maybe they're giving Smolka a feeder.
They could, because
like-
he's exciting. One of the biggest flaws that I do see with him is his mental game, because after his 1st and 2nd loss, he immediately was coming out being like, oh, I suck, I'm so bad, this was horrible. Went out and went on a drinking binge for a month, got a 2-week camp, had another fight against Borg and lost. Why? Because
Borg's a beast.
yeah, you fucking come in ready to go. Maybe he had a 4-week camp, but either way, he didn't really get ready because you knew that he had been at a bar. He had said, I spent out fucking drunk for a month straight. That's not good for anybody.
Much less a professional fighter.
So
at
after
that
Borg,
level.
exactly. For Borg, we don't know what happened. Did he get his mind together or not? But after this performance, is he going to go back to the bar or back to the gym? This guy's mental state is his biggest flaw. It's like a rose. If his mind's not in it, he has all the attributes to be a top 5 guy. A Smolka, I think, does, but it's whether he gets his head together and gets back in the game.
Disagree. I don't think he has the attributes at all to be a top 5 guy at 125, but maybe 135.
We'll see. He's young, and he's growing
How old
too.
is he?
I think he's 24. 23,
You know why I
24?
won't say
He's
it
still
too?
gonna gain
I don't know if
size.
you saw the list of young people that I tweeted out on Twitter of like just the Cody Garbrands, the Rose Namajunas, the Ray Borgs, the Whittakers,
Scoggins, all
these
guys.
other young guys who have the fight IQ, who are at the right weights, who are doing the right thing.
That aren't
There's
getting
no
blackout
room
drunk. No, I agree.
for Smolka. And what is it, 3 fights in a row he's lost?
3 fights, but I would again just say look at the caliber of fighter compared to. I don't know. I can't think of a 125 guy that's had harder fights. Let's take a bit.
125 guy with harder fights. I think
Other
the guy
than
that
Champ.
Cejudo.
Who did he fight other than DJ that was like, wow, that was a hard fight?
Oh my gosh, I feel like a few of them did. I feel like he had a.
Against Chico Camus, who's out of the UFC for a
No,
while?
but that was forever ago.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was his 2nd fight in, 3rd fight in.
DJ. Who else has he fought? I feel like his last. I wish I could pull out my phone right now. The laptop computer is not nearly as efficient or fast.
I would agree.
Look at Smolka here.
The Last Samurai, which just make it Last Samurai. Don't put duh in there. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Unless that means dumb. Duh, Last Samurai. That's so 1990s.
That is very... But is it Pidgey?
What does he have, Space Jam shirt on?
So, Smolka's last fights, Ben Nguyen. Or wait, let's see. His last 3 fights is Tim Elliott, who just fought for the championship. Ray Borg, who's going.
Tim Elliott, who only fought for the championship because he was the only guy that answered in short notice.
Tim Elliott?
Oh wait,
no, he won the show.
I forgot they did that whole show for them. I forgot they did that whole show.
Moreno, who's about to fight, who a lot of people think is a dark horse in the division, and then he has a streak before that against
nobody's.
Ben Nguyen, I think, is a name, and he's gonna be a name. He's young, but he's getting better. He's also like a 21-year-old guy, and he walked right through him. Nobody's walked through Ben Nguyen like that. Houlihan, who's out, but Houlihan got out because he had some blood disease. It wasn't because he wanted to, and stepped out, and that was a good fight.
But he was in every other fighter. Houlihan, he won, lost, won, lost, won, lost.
Yeah.
Neil Seery.
Neil Seery is, I think, a veteran who can beat a lot of people, and that was the first time he really looked good. And then prior to that, he beat Vakul something who's out of the sport, and he lost to Chris Carriasso via decision split. That is a bad loss. Chris Carriasso he's went for the title, but he got
looking
mocked
at
up.
it. I don't think his record's that impressive. Anyone he's gone against,
that's who I would say. But this guy went nowhere as well. He debuted.
So the only guys to me that he's gone against that are contenders he's lost.
Yeah, I could see that. Ben Nguyen's young. He got Ben Nguyen young in his career.
Ben Nguyen's a different fighter. Now,
I think it's his last loss. I think he might only have. I think that's been Ben's last loss.
Yeah, he's definitely a different fighter than when Smolka last fought him.
But either way, great weekend of fights. It was definitely fun times. We're just gonna keep it on rolling.
What else happened on the fights this weekend?
Any shout outs, anything post? I mean, DJ broke the record, or he tied the record for most defenses.
I think this is worth talking about. The champion fought on the fight card, on a free Fox card. We were just going to move on without talking about it because no one gives a shit about DJ.
I think it's that Fox spot that ruins him. I think that he's making a good choice by getting his name out there. But you need to be on pay-per-views. I think he needs to be on more pay-per-views now. He's done enough Fox time that DJ doesn't need to do Fox ever again.
Here's the problem. Are you going to put somebody on a pay-per-view that people aren't tuning in for free?
But if you did if you did 2 belts and you put him on the co-main belt, that's where I think DJ would do well.
But then it's like
and then
any
the main
fighter
event be
would
someone
do
else.
well if you put a good main event. The fact that he is a champion that's been holding his belt as long as he has, and the UFC cannot sell him to save their life. Like, all the last Fox cards, the PVZ Fox card, over 2 million views. Holly Holmes Fox card, over 2 million views. His, worst one they've had.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And that was a great card. You were just talking about
it's one of the best in
What the hell? And I keep hearing the amount of damage that can be inflicted is not as much. The competition he goes against isn't as high. Like, I keep hearing all these reasons of excuses of why we won't turn in for DJ, and I'm like, he's an okay, nice guy.
Yep.
He's, his fights, I mean, what more do you want from a fight? It's
his size. I think it's his size.
Is it that he's that much better than all the competition? Like, could that really happen? That you look like your fights aren't impressive because you're that much better than the person
But he has been beat. I mean, Cruz got him.
How long ago was that?
That was the debut of the division. That was probably going on 4 or 5 years now. But he hasn't lost since then. I think he's been the champ. He's the only champ in the current division. Like I said before, I feel like his size. It's just people undermine his ability because they don't. But if that guy had those skills at 185 pounds, you wouldn't shut up about it. People would just keep going.
The 135, go up 10 pounds.
Yeah.
We give a fuck.
Yeah, Connor.
No, just a 135. Cody. We care about Cody Dillashaw.
Oh, yeah,
that whole thing. We care about all that. Go up 10 more pounds. We care about the 145. Aldo friggin' going against Holloway. We're stoked on that. It's like, what the heck? I can't figure it out for myself. Like, he's giving me everything I want in an exciting fight. Yep. He's going in and doing it. He's likable personality, good on the mic. I can find him off when the UFC's not on.
Twitch City.
Yeah, I'm bummed for him. It's kind of like that.
I've been a big fan of his, and I follow a lot of what DJ does, but we tend to be a little bit more of the ravenous
you're
fans.
always on DJ, but you're always on DJ's bandwagon.
Yeah, I have been for a long time, just because I feel like I get it a little bit more in just the common folk.
They put a whole show around it to build it, to make people care.
But this is one of those guys, though, that when he retires 10 years later, people are going to be like, did you ever see that DJ guy back in the day? Where people will be like, he was a mythological creature, but they're not giving him the credit now. I think that when he's finally said and done, people will be like, oh yeah, Willie Pep was the greatest of all time.
Everyone calls him the best of all time.
Now, especially after this one, I've heard more people be like, pound for pound, which I won a bet last year for him being pound for pound. And this was last year because he was the only champ who defended his title all year and never lost a round.
And they tried to steal it from him too, right at the last minute.
To try to give it to John Jones or some bullshit.
Connor.
Oh, that too, bullshit. When he
never defended a title at one weight. So, yeah.
So...
Anyway, the DJ.
Definitely the DJ. I definitely feel bad for him as well, and all we can do is
I'm interested in this Cody DJ feud that's been going on Twitter, and that is how you make DJ interesting.
I would first want to see myself personally would be the Cruz, just because I want to see him get that win back, and I think that he could get that win back.
I don't know if he'll ever. What do you think? Do you think Cody's going to beat Dillashaw?
I think that Cody could beat Dillashaw just because of all of
Dillashaw's ego.
The ego and all of the backroom talk. All of the hey, because Alpha Male and all those guys have said, and I feel like even TJ has said it, yeah, he's caught me a couple times in the back, where Cody's never once said he put me out. Where we know that Dillashaw, and I think that there's video and that the Alpha Male guys are holding on to it. A week before the fight, that's gonna leak, and it's the video. People have said they've seen it, and they're waiting to release it. And it's not like they were videotaping them; it's more they were videotaping someone else. And in the corner, you see,
boo.
Yep, somebody go to sleep, and it was night, and that was practice. And even Cody spoken on it and said, "I wasn't gonna go hard, but he fucking cracked me, so I cracked him back." That's the name of the game. So we know Cody has the power to do that, and it's a points game.
If the Cody that fought Dominic shows up,
it's a win. Yeah.
Who beats that guy?
Yeah, I agree.
Who beats that guy?
I agree.
Okay, if the Cody that beat Dominic shows up, does DJ beat that guy? Do you think DJ could get knocked out by Cody?
The way Cody's been putting people out, because it's been a while. He's been doing this regularly for a few people. I think that Cody could completely change Demetrius' fighting style, because once you get hit with a shot that you're like, damn, this guy can knock me out, game plan out the fucking door. It's the Mike Tyson thing. Once you get hit in the mouth.
Well, that's what Dom Cruz said, too. He said, once I saw my eye in the thing, I knew I was on a time limit. They were going to stop this fight. And so all my training went out the window.
It happens all the time. And I feel like that, because DJ's got such a big head, no one's came with enough power to really hurt him. Cody, even if he doesn't knock him out, if he hurts him, it'll get DJ to react in a way that we haven't seen.
Can I tell you a fight I'm more interested in than Cody versus
Masvidal Maya?
No, DJ. I would love to see DJ versus Dillashaw.
Yeah, that would be a great fight.
That would be awesome.
That would be a great fight. I would like that fight.
Their styles are just competing.
Yeah, that would any of those fights I would really enjoy.
Okay, so speaking of
moving on to this coming up weekend, is it UFC 109?
I was gonna ask you, did the Masvidal Maya get canceled?
It fizzled out apparently. So I don't know what the fuck that means. I tried to find
I couldn't find anything on Twitter, so I don't know if it's real.
Yeah, well, I saw via Tap, it says it fizzled out. But I looked on his specific page, Maya's, and nobody has given a certain... As of last week, this was the only fight I could think of. And as of over the weekend, at some point in time when I was sleeping, this fizzled out. And I feel like maybe Maya's saying, I don't want Masvidal.
I just saw what happened to Jacare, and I want my title shot.
That really could have been what happened, because the exact same reason I picked Whittaker is what I've been saying about Maya. I just thought of that. I've been saying that exact same thing. Good takedown defense, George Masvidal with a good striking. If you can't get him down, and then again though, Damian Maya's takedowns are 50-80% better than Jacare's. But still, that's... one of the hardest fights Maya could have in that division would be George Masvidal, or Jorge Masvidal right now. So, really bummed for that. That's just complete bullshit. A lot of people really excited for that.
Two quick things before we jump in. And we don't have to do full breakdown today, because I think we could probably do another podcast sometime this week. even during the day.
Okay.
Or something.
Okay.
But I still want to get into that card. But did you know Tim Kennedy re-enlisted?
To the military or the UFC?
Military. You never know.
Yeah. I didn't know that he had gotten out of the service. I thought that he was still a
Maybe it's
operative.
just every few years. I thought he was on reserves at this point.
What he could have done is re-upped his enlistment, so he could have been
that's
enlisted and
probably
then
what
just
it
did
is.
4 more years. That usually
And
tends to
last
be it.
one, which I'm kind of bummed about, but hey, you fucking shit the bed, then people will kick you right out of it. And did you hear about Mike Graves getting released from the UFC?
Really? I did not hear about that at all. What happened with that? That is totally
Guy
random.
full of potential, but
Yeah,
you
I
go
agree.
around with domestic violence, getting accused of it last
yeah.
year, and the UFC is like, we don't even want to mess around with this.
Yeah,
So he is, and I guarantee he was drunk with the domestic violence because we saw on the show he had a drinking problem. So I bet and he
that
was somebody
sucks.
with potential.
Yeah, he had potential.
Yeah,
Definitely a ground
so
specialist.
Hopefully he gets to Bellator. He can clean up his persona a little bit when you see him again in the UFC.
All of a sudden, for that girl, he's going to be able to pay that lawsuit, all those lawsuit bills all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to go to Bellator and make a whole lot more money in a shorter amount of time with lesser competition. I just don't see how anyone... We just saw, actually, Koji Horiguchi fight at Resin as well over the weekend. He's somebody who just came off of the UFC. Guess what? Got paid top dollar, wasn't the main event.
He said he made way more money at Resin than he ever did UFC.
Way more money. And he fought 3 times the caliber less than any of the opponents he's ever faced before. Why aren't... there is other people that are starting to do that.
I don't want to be a champion? Like,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah,
fight
yeah.
harder fights for this less money.
Totally. And one quick thing with the Jacare, did he also re-sign his UFC contract right before that Whittaker fight?
I hope not. I didn't
I
hear.
feel like
I was
I
gonna
saw.
ask about it.
I feel like I saw literally the day, like after weigh-ins, he was like, "Yay!" And I think it's a 2 or 3 fight contract, and he was dancing around, and people have
Well,
mentioned
maybe he's
it.
the smart one then.
I would say not at all. The only thing he could have done was win for that contract to be legit. All of a sudden, he moves back 6 spots, so he doesn't get to fight for the champion in the next 1 or 2
But he
fights.
might never get the fight for the title, but he
pay-
signed before he was a loser.
Well, that's also so. This
So
is
I
where
feel
the
like
best
that's
option.
good for him. Because he would get less money signing on Bellator as a loser
But
than signing on as a winner of this fight.
But he's going to still stand to make so much less money because he's not going to be in those money fights in the UFC, and he's not going to be able to make that promotion. So even as a loser, I feel like the biggest loss for him is that he didn't get out of his contract completely, because I don't think he's going to have the time with his age to go for the champion.
title.
Exactly.
But, in the one division that you could fight for that title, it's that 185 messy-ass division with Bisping fighting GSP, maybe Yol, who's really in line, but he wasn't really because it really was Luke Rockhold, but then the Weidman thing, and then Luke hurt himself. It's like such a messy fucking division.
It is.
It's really on who's going to pull the biggest, who's healed up in time to pull the biggest numbers for when Bisping feels like fighting again.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be Jacare.
So,
It could be. I don't know. And they need all the fighters they can in that weak-ass division.
especially that division of all the divisions.
Not that it's good for Souza, but it's good for me.
So yeah, we don't have to get into a full breakdown. There's just a couple fights that I'm just like, I know I could talk about a whole hour for straight, and just a quick one that people are going to be talking about. Dustin Ortiz versus Brandon Moreno. Moreno's come off of a win against Smolka, and then who else did he beat? Benoit, which was a split decision. And his submission over Smolka, he lost in the show to Yair in a very close split decision on the show. His technique looks good. Moreno's out of Entrum Gym, California, Baja area, Tijuana area. Dustin Ortiz is a ultra grinder wrestler. I've been on the Ortiz bandwagon for a really, really long time. I feel like Ortiz is going to get a lot of people are going to say he's on his way out. They're going to be giving this prospect a lot of love, especially the way he's been winning. But a split decision to Benoit. If Benoit were to fight Dustin Ortiz would win that heavily a decision, if not a finish. So I'm going to go with Dustin Ortiz off the top of my head right now. And I don't see my mind changing. I think Ortiz is just a way more savvy veteran. He does have a couple more losses, but stylistically, this is a much harder fight for Moreno than I think people are initially going to give him.
I will pick Moreno decision, but maybe Moreno by a full submission. I think
He jumps on him well.
Dustin Ortiz, it's not that he's not an elite fighter. He's a UFC fighter, but his losses are just against guys that aren't winning great. So I feel like he just maybe even the last win against Makovsky or Fun Size Makovsky.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if it was a
with
win.
his last 3 losses out of his last 5 fights. They're Formiga, who's a former contender.
Formiga has not looked good
and he's on his way
while.
out. Yeah, and I've picked against
Pace
Formiga.
looked not great
Against DJ though. And he beat everyone. He was on like a 6-7 fight streak prior to that. And then Benavidez, who's also the number 2 in that division. I mean, Willie Gates is not that good at all. So the TKO finish there for him. And the Makovsky isn't. I can see that.
Like
it's
Fun
not
Size
amazing.
won that fight. I remember
It was a split. It was definitely a split. I could see it going either way and I wouldn't be upset. Another quick fight. This is just an exciting one. We got Talis Laitis versus Smiling Sam. Anytime I see Smiling Sam in there, I enjoy his personality.
I think Sam's getting better.
Yeah.
And he has the most power, the least expected most power.
I think that he definitely tricks people with his power because of his whole look and aura. You would never think that he could lay hands, and people crumble underneath this young man.
You said it earlier, and Sam's one of those guys that'll hurt you and make you lose your game plan.
Yeah, I agree.
He's definitely
and
one of those guys. I totally agree with you on this
Laitis
fight.
is 35 on a long career with, if there's, his ground game is where he excels at. Alvey has good takedown defense, and Laitis' chin has been suspect for a while now, so I think this is set up.
Don't go in the ring for Alvey.
Against Alvey, right? If you're exactly.
I'm going to say Silent Sam knockout round 1.
I have decision right now, but I'm definitely going to probably end up moving that over to a knockout. We don't have to go over those ones. There's so many good fights.
I don't even mind talking about all of them briefly.
We have Mike Perry, or it's
I
the
think
other
this
one I'm
fight's
really
funny to talk about.
Mike Perry versus Ellenberger. Ellenberger came back and beat Mike Brown with that body shot, but he was on that streak. He lost to Masvidal, but prior to that, he beat Brown. He lost to Masvidal with his foot going in the cage, and they stopped it, so it was like a really weird TKO.
But he was losing.
He was on his way out. He was on his way out, so he probably saved himself a concussion by twisting his foot up, honestly.
Really, his last win in 4 fights is a body shot that I could land on Matt Brown.
Which we call to say, Matt Brown, we've been saying for years, Matt Brown can't take body shots. Where the fun fight is that if we haven't had a heel come into the sport, like Mike Platinum Perry is, he has come in as a heel and has kind of reveled in it. He's kind of been like, okay, I'm the bad guy.
He's not trying to be Daniel Cormier, like, why are you booing?
Yeah, he doesn't give up. He's a boxer, MMA fighter who fights in the streets. He has some really good interviews. Heavy hands, looping punches. He's got a jaw on him. He has a chin on him because he eats so many shots
to land one.
Yep, to land one.
It's actually what you said about his last fight. You said he can't always be a fighter that takes one to give one, or else it's gonna cost him.
Eventually, it'll catch up to him. Joban eked them out with technique. Ellenberger has that. Ellenberger has all of the skills. I just don't think that he has a time. I don't think he has a time anymore. If he would have caught Perry 3-4 years ago, Ellenberger's on his way out of the UFC. Yeah. It's sad to say.
This is probably his last fight.
It's probably pretty close. If not,
I think this is actually set up because they like Perry. The UFC thinks he's a future star. I think
I would say Ellenberger, if Ellenberger has a shot, he has devastating power.
When do you see Ellenberger fight the best? When he's fighting for his life.
Which is probably this fight again. It's true. So this is a really fun fight. I think this is going to be a slobber knocker. There's going to be a drag out of a fight because especially Perry tends to make these fights like that because he puts his head down and comes in swinging, and it makes an exciting fight.
Another guy that's still so young.
Exactly. I'm loving the UFC roster. They've been some hiccups here and there. There's a lot of good
future. It's like looking at a football team that signed a bunch of rookies that you're like, so they're not going to be great this year, but in the next few years coming up, they're going to be awesome.
Yep. So I got Perry, TKO round 1. That might move a little bit back, but you got to be careful. Ellenberger is a veteran who did have wherewithal to put a game plan against Brown, so you know that he's
watching.
He's thinking.
I just don't think there's enough tape that's clean to watch of Ellenberger, except for the last loss to Joe Ban. So I think Perry. I think Ellenberger's only shot is being like, okay, I'm going to take Joe Ban's game plan and do exactly that. And even that shows that
Yep.
none of us that fight. No one expected Platinum Perry to make it till the end. He didn't look good during parts of that. So the fact that he made it with Joe Ban, I'm like, ooh, Ellenberger not looking good.
Ellenberger can wrestle. Wrestling is in his credentials, and I do think that Perry can get out wrestled for 3 rounds. But Ellenberger can also drop his hands and swing. It's a really exciting fight.
This one I think is good.
This is going to be a really fun one as well. We skipped a couple in between, but we have John Dodson at 135 pounds versus Eddie Wineland.
I like John Dodson more at this weight class. This is my point exactly for Smolka.
Totally.
I think he could come in and do this same shit and be an exciting fighter, fighting bigger names.
I totally agree with this 100%. These are both 32-year-old gentlemen. We thought that Eddie Wineland was chinny and out of the game because he had 2 back-to-back knockouts, one devastating. Probably, I think, upset of the year was Eduardo versus Wineland. I think it was like a 10-1, and he knocked him dead in 30 seconds. But the reason that Wineland is doing all right in his comeback is because he fought Frankie Zanes, and then he fought Takeya Mizugaki. Takeya Mizugaki, whoever's not beating that guy needs to be out of the UFC himself. So those 2 last fights compared to the people that Dodson's been fighting, Lineker,
murderer.
Exactly. Got a Manny Gambier innocent. That was a quick TKO. And Demetrius Johnson,
murderer.
Exactly. Then you also fought McCoskey. But either way, we know what we're getting with both of these fighters.
He's not chinny. He has cardio
Mega
for
power.
days.
Remember that I was saying that we thought he was chinny? Well, Frankie Zanes doesn't have a ton of power, and Takeya Mizugaki doesn't have a ton of power. Guess what's about to happen? He's about to fight a fighter with a ton of power. Eddie Wineland is, and John Dodson needs one.
Let me just tell you one thing that I don't like right now. Jackson Winklejohn's gym is on a big fat losing streak. No one's winning out of that gym. No one is winning out of that gym.
Devin Clark just went out of that gym, didn't he? But it was a decision, that last fight card. But as far as like where they were, they've fallen a bit.
No one's winning out of there. It's crazy. They had like
I would say John Jones.
Yeah, well, John Jones. But if John Jones walked away to a different gym, would we talk about John Winks as much anymore? There's not as many people there.
I think there's still a lot of people. I think that there's still a lot of people there, and they could be going through a lull. Or what can be happening as well, because this happened to the New Yorkers' Ray Longo gym. They're like, oh, Ray Longo come out and said, we're plateauing, guys. We're getting this, or we're kind of basing out. We need to get our shit together and get our head in the game and revamp this whole fight game if we want our guys to go far. But what I think might really be happening is that other gyms are preparing for this gym style, because gyms have styles. We know what you're going to get with a TriStar guy. Good jab, good takedowns, okay takedown defense. So other gyms are they're preparing, oh, you got this guy coming up. And I think that it's an evolution of the entire sport as a whole. And it makes funner fights. Everyone's getting that much better from it. But I could see that there's a bit of a drop out of that camp right now. But Dodson TKO.
It's so funny, this next fight, I'm just looking at what you have on it.
Oh, yeah. Versus OSP versus De Lima.
I am not a De Lima fan.
Hate him.
But
hate him.
My least favorite fighter in the UFC is OSP. Or he's in the bottom 3 of my least favorite fighters in the UFC, who is overrated as all get out.
This is such a hard fight to pick because
they're both on their way out and they're in a division that is lacking.
No gas tank, and they both have heavy power. So it's who lands the first shot. I mean, De Lima has heavy power, so does OSP.
Slobber knock around 1, and then they're going to be leaning on each other for 2 rounds.
If they go out of 2.
Split.
I agree. It can be a first round knockout for either fighter. I just think
OSP, he's a giver-upper, and I'm hoping that De Lima just lasts a little longer. That's it.
Yeah, I have De Lima right now, decision, but that's going to move to something that's not set. This is early in the week for me.
But that's kind of where I'm at, too. It's not because I believe it's going to go to decision.
Agreed.
It's just that's a reminder to not bet money on either of them.
Yes, that's kind of where I'm feeling. Or, you split up the cards.
Though, geez. It's like, does he even train before his fights? It's unreal.
Gas tank is unreal. Unreal, his gas tank. And the fact that he lost to... I can't even pronounce the name, but OSP hasn't looked good for a while. He's had a couple knockouts.
What was his last win?
His last win out of his last fight were Cavalcante, who's out of the UFC, or going out. He's like a 42-year-old fighter. So, yeah, I got De Lima. That's just going to be one to sit back and watch. Sit back and watch.
Sanchez Iaquinta fun.
This, though, I did hear something today specifically, which I think this fight's going to fall out. I think this fight's falling out. You heard it here
Something
first.
with Diego Sanchez?
Yeah.
I feel like I read something about him a couple days ago, but I didn't know.
Having some sort of a heart issue.
Oh, shit.
Yep, exactly. So we're like, this fight's done. Quinta's back after like a year and a half, 2 years being out, being a realtor. We know he's a wrestler, tough guy, up-and-coming kid.
If it gets canceled, I don't think it's a bad thing for Quinta. I think he needs a warm-up fight before Diego Sanchez.
I think he could beat Diego Sanchez, especially the way Diego's been looking. The thing with Diego, what I had heard was that he was having heart stuff and he was blaming medical marijuana. Which I'm like, goddamn, you've been hit too.
You ass fuck.
You've been hit in the head too many times, Diego Sanchez.
Don't
we
you
know
ever
that.
say anything about
your heart
marijuana,
and weed?
Fool.
Heart and weed? Come on, Diego Sanchez. Fuck, man.
And if that's the case, how about you stop smoking weed, you fool?
Exactly. So the fact that he said anything on that, I mean,
and
I've always been a writer.
Look what Jimmy's at.
Jimmy?
Look at Jim. He is at Diego Sanchez.
Oh, Jackson Winklejohn. I thought you were at Jimmy. I'm like, what?
Who's Jimmy?
Jimmy, where?
Jimmy. If this fight falls out, I think Diego Sanchez could be one of those guys that leaves the UFC in a whimper without a bang.
It's all.
He's done, though.
He's been.
I have Quinta could have a run,
time.
but this is the time. He needs to start it. So I feel like if Sanchez falls out of this fight, they need to make a short notice fight for Quinta just to get this ball rolling again. I think he was somebody with tons and tons of potential.
Fan favorite.
Yeah. It's one of the first names I knew in the UFC watching. You know.
I totally agree. Diego Sanchez was on the first season. He was on the first episode of the first season of the show.
Yeah.
That's how long he's been in it. But people have been calling him Punchy for 5-6 years now. And he's kept fighting. So, I love Diego Sanchez, but it's a warrior's heart and a pugilist's brain that he's got going on now. And that's really unfortunate for him.
I love this next fight.
I think it's a really
and I wasn't
fun
excited
fight.
about it when it was first signed. I thought I was bummed, and I felt like they were just giving it to Lobov because he's a Connor boy.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this is kind of bullshit. I don't want Cub. This is his last run at it. Let's get him a bigger fight than this. But the more it's closed in, excited about it.
Yeah, Cub's coming off of the fight of the year with Choi, which.
Goddamn battle.
I mean, we know Cub still wants to win. We know Cub's still trying to make it. He's on a 3-fight winning streak right now against caliber opponents. Kei Jawari as well, who's out of the UFC. Hakran Diaz, who's an underdog. He's an underrated fighter. Yeah. And then he lost to Max Holloway, who's about to be a champ. And Frankie Edgar, also 2 former champs, are his last losses.
By submission, which is not going to happen in this fight.
Against Lobov. Right. Lobov is definitely the SBG Connor Dick
This has potential to be the fight of the year.
You're giving him 2 fights of the year.
This could happen. This could happen. This is going to be a slobber knocker fight.
I think this is going to be a really fun fight.
To watch.
It's going to go 5 rounds. For the 5 rounds, I'm going to say that I am giving it to, with the history of the sport, from what I know from Club Swanson, he has the better technique, he has a better gas tank, and he tends to pressure guys a whole lot better, and he tends to be more spontaneous. He throws a lot of things that are just awkward, that I feel like some of the champs were able to capitalize on. And I didn't like Artem Lobov on the show. Don't like him on a lot of other stuff, but what he showed me in his last fight was the next step. He showed me that he's working with the champion of a division, and he was ready to go 5 rounds. He looked more muscular than he had ever looked in any fight he'd ever had. His jab was unreal. And I feel like that jab, Ishihara, he was
It wasn't just the jab. It was his fucking leg kicks. Leg kicks jab. It was like he emulated, and we said it that night.
Yep.
I'm having a sinking feeling that we're about to see the exact same game plan from Conor McGregor, and he's going to beat Eddie. Even though we both had Eddie going in. Once we saw Artem fight, we were like, oh, shit.
That's the same thing.
Oh, shit. So, and it's exactly what we saw Conor do.
Exactly what happened. And I think that SBG camp is starting to realize what they need to do to make championship level fighters. They got Gunny in there, multiple Conor, other people, but I think that Diaz fight showed SBG we need to get ready for 5. So not only Conor got ready for 5, every person in that gym got ready for 5. And I think that Artem's on the way up. I don't think Swanson's on his way down yet. I think he's plateauing more. He's still in that top level, but I feel like there's more shine for Lobov, and this is a winnable fight for him. It really is a winnable fight for him.
I am actually on the Lobov train as well for all the same reasons. I'm like, how can you fight with a guy like Conor at this level that he's fighting?
Yep.
You see that he's malleable, Lobov, because of
know
how
what
we
it takes
saw
to be
from
a
one
champ.
fight he came in, and then training with Conor for that fight, we see a guy come in with this game plan and this ring IQ we never saw before.
Exactly.
So it shows like, whoa, this guy's learning.
Yep.
Even though his age doesn't seem like it, it's like, whoa, he's growing leaps and bounds. But one thing that I heard him say in an interview that changed my whole opinion on him, and he was like, people keep trying to put me down, and like, oh, that's Conor's boy, he's that's the only reason he is where he is.
Yeah,
and
I thought that.
But he said something, he goes, and that doesn't offend me, the greatest thing I've ever done in my career was train the champion. And I was like, that is a friggin' guy without an ego.
That'll take you to the next level.
That will.
Yep.
Putting your ego away and being
Yep.
like, this guy's a champion, I want to absorb everything. And one thing I think about Conor personally is I think he has that John Jones study mentality of other fighters where he sits and watches every tape and he figures out the holes and figures out the timing and figures out that, and that's what makes these guys next level. I think Conor seems generous to give that to a guy like Artem who's training with him every day.
He takes care of his own.
Yeah, and
He
I do
takes care
believe,
of his
and
own.
so I think, if anything, we saw him go with his other two guys, fly all the way to New York just to walk his boy into the ring in
Yep.
his boxing match. I think he's going to do that for Artem, and I agree. I think Artem's going to knock. I think
Wow.
I think he hits
Did
hard.
you see the odds? I just pulled up the odds.
No,
I haven't looked at the
no.
odds. We need to put money on Lobov all day.
What is it? How under? Holy cow!
plus
Is he underdog?
$500?
$5. $5 to
500,
1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1 odds.
5-1 odds. I think
That's
that
crazy.
regardless, the line at minus 700 for Cub is way too much. That's
No,
that's
I
an
agree
offline.
with you.
That's an offline.
I think Lobov can knock. I think Lobov has that, what you were talking about, that stunning. We've said it over and over again for different fighters. That stunning power that makes a guy lose his game plan. I think Lobov's one of those guys. I think he can throw.
What I just want to see, if I see anything this fight, he did it in his last fight versus Ihara once he really started pulling away. He did a striking hammer fist.
Oh yeah.
You remember? He pulled his hammer and fucking struck down. It was so, I've never seen it. Maybe I've seen it at like Pride back in the day, but nothing as of late. In the last 10 years, I haven't seen that punch.
This is the other reason I think Lobov's going to knock him out. This is where I think there's money on the Lobov finish.
Ooh, that's going to be high.
And picking
That's
the
gonna be
round.
high.
I think 1 or 2, you can pick it. A
Yep.
big reason, we've talked about this all the time as well. You're not in a battle 4 months ago that is the fight of the year.
That's a great point. I
That
didn't even
says
think
your
about that.
head is going to be in good
I did
places
not think
for
about
this
it.
fight.
That's a great call. That's going to put the steam in for me on Lobov even more. But yeah, I like that. TKO,
So I think he's
the
our
finish,
new
the
Whittaker.
finish.
I think right now the way it stands, and we're not diving in deep to it, but I think
Yeah, we still have other podcasts
at
that
this
come out.
rate, Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week
Is
is
gonna be
Lobov,
Lobov,
and I
I'd
can't
agree with
believe
that.
it's so big. It should be, if you want to give it to
2 to
Cub,
1.
plus 125.
I would
Maybe.
say 2-1 just because of the history, because a Cub has so many championship bouts
And
and
this
5
is
rounders.
the thing too. I love Choi. I think that fight was awesome.
Yep.
But I think Lobov hits harder than Choi. And I
Ooh,
think
interesting.
he's friggin' training for a boxing fight with Conor for the last X amount of months. If you want to stand and throw with a guy, it's not a guy that's been just training boxing. And like you were just saying before, Gunny's in their gym.
Yep.
You have a guy like Gunny
The
in your
ground
gym.
game?
Yeah, you're not worried about and a guy that's not going to take you to the ground is Cub Swanson. He wants to stand and throw.
Yeah,
It's going to be that way.
he does like to stand and throw. I'm excited. The more and more I'm talking about
If
this
Cub
card,
Cubs
I'm
wins
so
this fight,
excited.
though, he's on a run. You got to make Cub run for the title at 145. If Cub wins this fight,
Yep.
we see him fight Holloway for the
Again? Like he
No, it'll be for the belt because
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Holloway's going to murk Aldo.
Well, that fight's got to happen still too, right?
But it's coming up. It's so
How
close.
much is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's so close. I feel like
want
it's
it to be
212.
I don't want it to be a Maya Masvidal and be like, yay, next week.
No.
And
It's the next fight is the Stipe Miocic 211.
Sure.
And then 212
Yep.
is Aldo Holloway. The only downfall of that, my only nerves, Brazil.
But if there's a fighter that's to drop a fight in between any of that time, it's Jose Aldo. It doesn't matter if it's 2 days before a fight. He's the fighter. So until we can cross that bridge, I don't even want to think
Well,
about
then
it.
this is perfect almost. Lobov gets out of this clean, one
Yep.
round, 2 round knockout, and then just sets his weight up right for short term call in against Holloway.
That'd be a fun fight.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a fun fight. I'd give it a Holloway. I'd give it a Holloway all day. But that'd be a fun fight. I'd like to see that.
I don't know. I'm excited about this card coming up.
Definitely. We're going to have to get much more into this. Once the lines actually break, we can give you a little bit more of those prop and or whatever bets.
And both of our schedules
about.
are getting better, so we'll be coming at you with more shows, and we're also figuring out everything, so we will be coming at you on YouTube soon.
Is that going to be next episode? We got to let them know now, because as of right now, we have to do it next episode.
It could be. I feel like if there was a line on it.
I'm going to go the other way, just because it would have to be in the next couple days. We'd have to get it together within a couple days to be able to put it out and put our whole breakdown.
Well, I might have to. Yeah, it might not be.
Wishful thinking. I'm wishful thinking. I wanted
this
to,
is
but realistic.
And we
exactly.
said by 50.
Exactly.
I mean, it could be really low rung for the first one. It could be really, and it could just
YouTube,
get progressively
well,
better.
maybe
and
our
it might not
viewers-
be live. We might.
Oh, yeah, no. I don't care about that whole live thing, but just to have a YouTube page up. Maybe we just have a couple photos on it, and we don't even have our screens, We just post it up with the still shots like I watch other people, and they do it, and we'll eventually get there. We're moving, we're working, we're listening to you guys. We hear you on Twitskis. Remember to follow us.
On Twitter, @Lesbo and the Bean.
Lesbo and the Bean!